All right, thank you for staying with the Daybreak. We'll play part 2 of Decoding Ruto at some point. For now, we have a different discussion to have. Have you ever wondered, the youth who make the biggest population in Kenya, are they empowered enough? Are they ready to lead? And if they are, what challenges are they facing? They're the leaders of tomorrow, but are they being given the mantle? Should they grab it? That is the question we want to hear from you. What do you think needs to be done to empower the youth even more? At Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya, use the hashtag Daybreak. Let me introduce my guest to you real quick, beginning with Dr. Demola Olajide. Dr. Demola Olajide is a UNFPA representative right here in Kenya. Thank you so much for making time. He's joining us online. In studio is Faith Dhuku, young person, youth, sexual and reproductive health advocate. She calls herself Ambassador Dhuku. Thank you so much for making time. And a lady who needs no introduction, the youngest Chief Administrative Secretary in the Ministry of ICT, Innovation and Youth Affairs, Nadia Abdallah. Thank you so much for making time. We'd like to hear from you as well at Citizen TV at Kenya, at Trevor Mbija, hashtag Daybreak. It's about youth empowerment. There's no one who has the silver bullet. We'd like to hear from you. What more needs to be done to empower the youth to take leadership? Do they deserve the mantle? Are they ready to lead? What is the challenges they're facing right now? And then there's another campaign that has been started by UNFPA. It's called Kenya ni Mimi. Let me bring in Dr. Demola Olajide to explain. Dr. Olajide, what really is Kenya ni Mimi?
Well, thank you very much for having me. I think to start with, I need to provide some clarification. Kenya ni Mimi is an initiative of the cast that you have with you there, Nadia Abdallah, and it seeks to have young people step up and take ownership for decisions that involves them. So it's essentially an engagement platform that the Ministry of ICT, Innovation and Youth is creating as a campaign that allows young people to voice their concerns, to dialogue with the older generation and with government, and to provide a strategic direction on issues that affect them. You talk about youth being the leaders of tomorrow. The Kenya ni Mimi actually tries to situate youth as the leaders and fashioners of not only tomorrow, but of today. And so we will collectively support the ministry and the cast in that vision of them, first of all, identifying what are the issues, what are the strategies to empower them, how will they like to step up onto the platforms, and how will they take over issues that address their own needs and their future. So essentially, that is what it is.
Okay. Cass, how is this meant to roll out? In your vision, what did you envision? How did you see this working out?
Okay, so basically, as Mr. Olajide had said, Kenya ni Mimi is an initiative that I started, and it's a personal initiative. It's a personal initiative because being a young Swahili girl and in an executive position in Kenya isn't something that you really see from a day to day. And so when I got into this position, I knew I had to come up with a structure that will also enable young people to understand that leadership starts now, and that whatever structures are already there in government, we can make them work. All we have to do is just to really disseminate information well and really strategically make young people understand that they are the decision makers and they are also the key players.
Yeah? Yes. Faith, kwa ground sasa. Is that what you really feel? Like the young people are the decision makers?
Somehow they are.
But what more needs to be done to ensure that then they feel included?
Thank you very much, Cass, for Kenya ni Mimi. I think Kenya ni Mimi is a very great platform for the youth because, yes, there are very many initiatives, but the youth have no information. So one of the main role of Kenya ni Mimi is to create that platform so that we can give information to the youth that there are initiatives that are going to help the youth do their works on the ground. Youth wengi hawajui vitu za kufanya, hawana idea that kuna KYEOP. Hawana idea kuna youth fund, hawana idea of anything. So we want to roll out this process so that we give them information that there are things that are going to help you. Si kufuatana huku na wanasiasa. No, that is not the agenda.
But Faith pia ushaisikia youth before akisema ati gava kuna venye I care. Because wanajua hizo initiatives ziko ndio, lakini hizo pesa zifikiangi ma youth man. Hiyo ni kitu hao usema kila saa. Sasa hata ukishapewa information ndio kuna hizo stories zote za funding and all that. How do you change your mindset? Because your mindset pia kuna venye inaweza kata kuchange. Kwa sababu unajua tu si tunangoja 2022 msea kuja na so moja gawe mafund story inaishia hapo. So tunachange aje hiyo attitude? How do you change that?
You know, for me, I'm an advocate for the youth. I don't lie to the youth and I tell them the truth. because majority of us, we have the mob psychology. Hey, wase tuendeni hivi, unaona. But if you can sit down and look at something, hey guys, me I have a group of friends and we are like, let's look at this thing, let's face this thing. Yes, we have a problem at hand right now, but do we have something we can do right now? Yes, there is always a way forward for each and every one of us, because I believe in this country, even in that document we don't want to speak about, BBI, it has everything for everyone in this country. And I believe that we should change our mindset, we should leave those social media ranting, whatever, and we should think of how we are going to be involved in a very serious process, a constitutional process. Yeah.
I see Cass smiling over the BBI. Cass, don't worry, I won't ask you about the BBI because I know you're a government official. Dr. Lajide, how do we address the lethargy that is grappling with the youth? Because the youth sometimes, there's a difference between having opportunities and taking advantage of them. Sometimes the youth are just simply lethargic because before you even try, they say, okay, now this is not going to work. I'll need to know someone somewhere to make it work, so they won't even try. How then do you address that lethargy so to inspire the youth to even give it a shot to begin with?
So that's essentially part of what we want to do, is by reaching out to the young people themselves and having that conversation that opens up the entire spectrum of what is possible, what is feasible, and have them also interrogate their value system. That has to change. And we have to create the urgency. As the ambassador was saying, she talked about now. The issue is about actually now. We need to step to the stage now. And so that issue has to be addressed because it's a mindset issue. But of course, information would also help. Knowledge would help. Interactions amongst themselves would help and create critical synergies. I tell young people that when I left medical school, I was 21, and people introduced me as young doctor. But then I did not consciously know when people started dropping the young. Then it was doctor. Right now, people don't even put doctor anymore. So the point is, if you don't seize the mantle now, time will slip away.
All right. And Nadia, now that's the other issue, because you see, the most concern for the youth right now is jobs. COVID-19 is here, they've lost their jobs, no one is employing. How do we address that issue? Because the first thing that always any young person you meet today is, where do I get a job? That's the first thing they ask.
That's true. And that's why the sole purpose of Kenya Nimimi is to create a platform to give information about the opportunities. Yes, because of COVID-19, a lot of jobs have been affected, but what are we doing about it? Sometimes we have to look at the glass half full rather than half empty. I hope I'm saying that right. And basically, when you look at the government and our ministry, we have affirmative funds that are there. Personally, I've been involved in some of giving away the checks in the affirmative funds. And what young people need to do now is first to get first-hand information about what are these funds, how are they helping me? And as a young person, what is the one thing that I want to identify and do in order to build up? Because let's be honest, not everyone is going to get a white-collar job. So we have to look beyond that. Before being a Cass, I was a social entrepreneur. I used to sell hijabs and I used to sell bottles of water. And I tell young people that. And I did not know about the affirmative funds, one, because I was not proactive enough to go and seek this information. And two, because I felt like maybe some of the government structures are not for me. And that's why Kenya Nimimi plays the biggest role ever, which is opportunities and information, to really disseminate the information that is already within our hands in the government. Then to work with people like Ambassador Thuku and other young people and help us try to really bring young people in and also give them that hope that they do work and successful stories are there.
So once this happens, how is it going to be rolled out? Because are you going to hold barazas? Because now, because of COVID-19, that's not possible. Is this a website they have to visit? How does the Kenya Nimimi initiative actually work?
So the Kenya Nimimi campaign is actually a sustainable approach towards empowerment, involvement, and education. And the first thing that we're doing right now is actually launching it nationally on the 7th. And basically what we want to do is we want to first just show young people what it's about. And then from there now we're going to have community engagements. A lot of times when we go out there, it's usually about what we want to tell young people, what we believe they want. But because of, I have been on the other side, we want to be heard. They want to be heard. So now Kenya Nimimi structure is going to engage with village elders, Nyumba Kumi, and other young people to come together and literally listen to what they're saying and give us opinions. Is the government program working? And if it's not, how do we change it? And if we want to better it, what are we going to do? So we're going to have community engagements. We're going to have young ambassadors who are, because honestly, as much as I've founded it, and of course my CS is the one who's really advising me, I need other small ambassadors in the different counties and ward level, so that we can also still reinstill values back in the whole structure.
Duku, you know, kwa ground when you deal now, say when you speak to them, ukiwauliza shida ni nini wanakuambiaje? Because unajua kuna vile unaweza kana mtu muulize wewe issue iko wapi? Anakuambia sasa Duku, mimi shida yangu ni moja. Nimejaribu kutafuta hizi matenda sizipati. Number 2 sina kazi. Number 3 nataka wasa wagava kuna venye wanafaa kutucheki walisema watuleta initiative hapa tuone vile inawaka. When they list their problems to you, shida yao exactly ni nini as the young people?
You know me, I won't lie to you. I am a ghetto child, and I know what goes on there, you know. And our biggest problem with our youth, let me tell you the fact, and they will hate me for this, but I will tell them. People don't want to work. You will wake up early in the morning, someone will wake up at 10 and then start blaming someone else for their own problem. You will wake up at 7 and my mother wakes up at 4. You know that it starts from there. It starts from a vision. Because if you have a vision, Trevor, if you have a vision, then you have something that is pushing you to do something. Because let me tell you something, as I have said earlier, there is something for everyone. If you do something consistently, then at the end of it, you will get what you want, Trevor. Because I believe the agenda of, the biggest agenda right now, which is Kenyan Mimi, has a way of helping the youth. Maybe not 100%, but in our peer platform, your platform tukipeleka, maybe kama ni korogosho tupeleke. If someone hears us that day, if someone takes this thing seriously, then atasaidika. But akiendelea kukaa vile anaendelea kukaa, trust me, nothing will change. Unaona? And that is the problem.
So issue ni kuchange tu mindset ya msea.
Yangu ni mindset na kushikana na wase. Because most of our youth, watu ni kuenda kukaa kwa base,
na kungoja madili, kuchana,
kukula jaba. That is the problem. And you know it, Trevor. That's the truth. Our cars might not know here, but it's true.
She might not say it out loud the way when I say it, because you're on the ground. But let's see Olajide. Olajide, you see, let's break this down now in terms of the economic, social, and political processes. So how does having youth engage in those platforms actually look like? Should the youth first decide that, okay, as a person, I am done with the university, there's no job, I want to pursue a political career? Should they then decide that that is not what I want to do, I want to do a business? So that somehow, or should they do all of them at the same time? How does them being actively involved look like in those 3 categories?
I think it's a two-way process that starts with both sides, the youth and government, including development agencies and the entire community of adults, engaged in a two-way dialogue, where there's a two-way communication process, where all the options are laid on the table. When you talked about employment the last time, I think it's important for everybody to begin to interrogate the process. Are we talking about employment or about an income? And so is it about employment or a gainful economic activity that sustains the individual and their families? And therefore, it may not necessarily translate to a white-collar or blue-collar job, as the case may be, but it may be the deployment of certain skills that are inherent. Young people are then able to make a choice when we've gotten into conversations on the range of possibilities available. Whether it's in politics, yes, they have a key role to play. The numbers are actually in their favor. Whether it's in entrepreneurship, they've got the creativity, they've got the innovation. Whether it's seeking a career in the public service, all of these become options that they can explore once we've had that opportunity of an open dialogue and conversation around even skills mismatch, which sometimes we see on a consistent basis, and how we can bridge that. So I do think it's a start, and it's a conversation that can be sustained and can move us towards desired results.
So what kind of models have you seen from a global perspective as the UNFPA representative? What kind of models have you seen that actually work for the youth in different countries that we could borrow a leaf from?
The challenge about working with young people is that it's never static. So if we had initiated some strategies 5, 10, 6 years ago, you find them evolving very, very quickly. But one thing that has remained consistent and that generates results is that once there's access to information, young people are able to use that, leverage it, and deploy it to their own use. Now, one of the things that technology allows now, and which has worked in other locations, is the fact that you have various categories of young people spread across the counties, some of them as individuals trying to do things on their own. Right now, if we're able to leverage technology, open up the conversation, create space for critical synergies, we may be able to birth something that goes beyond an individual, goes beyond just a group, that is sustainable and puts resources in their pockets while developing their capacity for future responsibilities.
Yeah.
So I do think the leveraging of technology and the creation of critical platforms for synergy is one key way that has worked and will continue to work.
Okay. Nadia, how are you going to deal with the issue that Dr. Olajide has just brought up, which is very interesting, that dealing with the youth is not a static affair?
Yeah.
This initiative starts now. Kenya ni Mimi initiative starts now. Along the line, you realize, oh, wow, most of the people I'm dealing with, first of all, there's a skills mismatch.
Yeah.
How do you even deal with that?
So, so one thing and one of the strategies that we are using is to really make young people own Kenya ni Mimi as their own.
Yeah.
So once you give them that mantle, then it allows us to now understand our ambassadors. You see, one of our biggest pillars is we want to have ambassadors in all these counties. So each ambassador is able to now share their opinion as we grow, because even right now, the way I started Kenya ni Mimi and the way it is now is totally different. I started with 3 pillars and now we have 5 pillars. And we realized that we needed to add, because that's how young people are responding to these things. That's how I'm responding to things. And so our ambassadors are going to be our key mechanisms to help us still be sustainable, still be relevant. And then other than that, also engagement and knowledge sharing, and also creating opportunities for other people. I just want to be very clear and say that Kenya ni Mimi campaign is not a campaign that is going to solve 100% of what young people are facing, but it's actually just going to reinstill back the values system. It's going to reinstill back patriotism among one another. It's going to really allow and make young people understand, yes, you know, if His Excellency the President is able to put an under 30 young lady in a position that is this high, then he has hope and faith in any other young person who is watching, whether you're from a marginalized community or not.
Yeah. But the same president at some point, he wondered whether the young people like yourselves
Yes.
actually ready to lead.
I mean, yeah, and as we said, young people are static.
Yeah.
5 of us are below 35, and 5 of us are doing a tremendous job in our different ministries.
Yeah.
So we have, as much as that has happened, we have been given an opportunity. We could have chosen not to do anything about it. I could have chosen not to really go on the ground, because most of my ways of doing things, I go to the ground and engage with young people.
Yeah.
But I'm doing the opposite. And if you remember, he said during the launch of Generation Unlimited, because of the fantastic jobs that we did, now they're looking into even getting more young people into the Chief Administrative Secretary position.
Okay.
Yes.
Duku, kuna history ya skills mismatch. Yeah? Msee kuna venye mi pia ulizwa hiyo swali mara mob sana. Wase uniuliza nataka kuwa journalist ka wewe, ukimuuliza ulisomea nini? Kwambia mimi nilifanya business management. So kuna venye unamshow hizo skills haziwork. Tunaweza bridge aje vitu kaa hizo, because unajua pia at the same time wezi ambia msee atirudi shule na ana do. Sasa vitu kaa hizo ndio shida inakuanga mtadeal nayo aje sasa kwa ground. Because issue sasa sahi, the only other alternative wako nayo ni aidha kuvuta mkokoteni, kupewa mawheelbarrow, vitu kaa hizo.
The issue of skill mismatch.
Yeah.
You find out, maybe I've studied engineering, then I'm a politician somewhere. Okay, maybe I'm doing things that a political scientist maybe angefanya, sindio?
Yeah.
So I think it goes back to our education system, that you see other developed countries, we are still a developing nation,
Yeah.
and we appreciate that fact that we are moving forward. We are in a country in progress, and I really appreciate that fact. But if our parents and the education system, because we cannot blame it on someone, we are blaming it on someone. If
Yeah.
our education system, it appreciate our talents kwa ground, our talents zetu, mtoi wako akigrow, you know, my child is doing this, then I think we are making that person grow to be the person he wants, or
Yeah.
he is meant to be in future. So you find out, and peer somehow the situation at hand, unaona say, like, because I study engineering, then he lacks a job, he's doing maybe he has no alternative, he's desperate, ndi anafanya vitu kaa hizo. So there is decency in everything that you do.
Yeah.
We want to tell you that we have something for you here. We are launching this thing next week, and we want each and the 70% of the youth of this country, we want you to tell you we have something for you, and we want you to be part of this thing,
Yeah.
whether social media or wherever you are. We are telling you that there are so many opportunities for us. Si lazima, see what, in fact, me sitaki kuwa kwa ofisi, but I want to do something for myself, that I will one day be a boss somewhere. Niambie, nipatie waseo opportunities for employment.
Na venye umedunga look hivi utaikuwa kwa ofisi.
Mi nataka kuwa boss.
Okay. Dr. Lajide, you know, you brought up a very interesting perspective of skills mismatch. And you know, in the 21st century, I was speaking to a professor who told me that one of the first things that even the government institutions need to stop doing is when they advertise for a job, they need to stop talking about must be a degree holder. A master's degree is an added advantage because this youth of today sometimes have skills that are even higher than the degrees that we're talking about, but because they're not exactly qualified, they don't get that opportunity, qualified quote unquote. For example, if you're coding, you can just code and you don't necessarily have to go through university learning. So someone may be extremely talented in that part, but because the regulations and the requirements for the job itself already kicks them out. How do we address that particular issue now?
I think the important thing to do is for us to deeply, in conversation with a range of stakeholders, including young people, interrogate our systems. So when we need skills and hands-on competencies for a particular job as against technical knowledge and academic background, we put that in place. Because it's not just as straightforward, and I'll give myself as an example. I left a medical school where when a patient comes into your clinic, you are ideally supposed to do a physical examination, you do a laboratory test, then you decide on the diagnosis, then you look at differentials, then you treat. But then get thrown into the real world. The patient comes into my clinic with, say, a maximum of 2,000 shillings. If I spend the 2,000 shillings in only doing investigations that identifies the problem, and I do not provide a solution within that budget he has, I have not helped that patient. And so I must begin to deploy my skills to the point where I'm able to minimally provide the best of care I can within 2,000 shillings, ensuring that the patient goes home happy. And that you will not learn in a textbook. That requires for us to begin to engage with the real world and help everybody, from those who employ, to those who train, to those who are looking out, to properly aggregate the entire range of skills and competencies required so that each job is not described in a generic process. Yeah. It is actually related to the results that the individual will deliver. It's important, nevertheless, that everybody seeks to get as much knowledge broadly as possible. And that's part of what we want this conversation to do, to take us in that particular direction where we can be concrete, firm, and determined.
Dr. Lajide, would you say this is the time then to re-engineer oneself? Is this the time when the youth should now start thinking of broadening their skill set? For example, if you know you went through a school and you did your business management, is it time now to think of other things? Because most of the conversations now are online.
Definitely, there's no doubt about that. We have to keep re-engineering ourselves. I went to medical school, like I said, but the first master's degree I took was in business administration. And I remember joining UNFPA in 2003, you do the work. Fast forward to UNFPA in 2016, you want to print a business card. The office would ask you for your Twitter handle, your social media handle, meaning that now, as a senior staff, you must be able to use these tools. Yeah. So re-engineering will not stop. It's not static, it is continuous. And young people have the better capacity and opportunity to do so. For some of us, the horse may have been out of the stable, but then for young people, this is the time to constantly re-engineer yourself, taking in the environment. And that is what Kenya Nimimi does. It provides you the environment. It provides you the menu of what is available, ensuring that the young people now have the opportunity and support of both government and development partners to critically re-engineer themselves as the environment determines.
Yeah. Cass, what are some of the challenges you've seen in this initiative that you started, Kenya Nimimi? As it rolls out, I know there must be several issues you've seen, and how did you bridge them?
Yeah, I think one of the issues is young people. We are in such a microwave generation. So young people are so fast to really just find out, okay, what am I getting out of it, rather than taking time to understand what is Kenya Nimimi. And so from that, how have we bridged that? We've engaged with young people like Thuku herself and others, and we've tried to have like Twitter chats so that we can really now break down why Kenya Nimimi exists and what you need to know about it. And the other challenge is basically young people, they see Kenya Nimimi as a way to solve problems or solve their issues. but it's not. It's a mechanism to educate, to empower, to involve, but also to protect. When I say protect, I mean to protect their mindset, to protect how young people think, to protect young people from being used during political issues. You know, we are 75.1% of this country. That's around 35 million, if I'm not mistaken. And so if we really look within ourselves as young people and look at the structures that government has placed, and then look at also the structures that developing partners and other private sectors have placed, you'll find out that everyone has a piece somewhere, but it has to really come from you. What are you passionate about, or what is the skill set that you need in order to move forward?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, as you speak, I comes to mind another category of youth, persons living with disabilities, who often face much more different challenges from what the rest of us may face.
Yes.
So how is Kenya Ni Mimi campaign going to cater for that particular group of the
And
youth?
so basically, we are going to engage with them. One, it's about civic education and also about looking at themselves internally. We have a pillar called health and well-being. Health and well-being, we're looking at sexual reproductive health together with UNFPA, and then well-being, we're looking at mental health. You know, the biggest challenge, especially to that particular group, is the fact that they have been really fighting and they have been really seeking help. And that sometimes also poses a lot of issues when it comes to your mental health, because you don't look at yourself as a change maker, but you look at yourself as someone who maybe wants their issues to be solved. And so with Kenya Ni Mimi, when we are particularly working with PWDs, we want to create civic education for them. We want to empower them in terms of their psychology, because we want their psychosocial support to also be really harnessed, because I'm big on mental health. Since 2016, I'm a mental health champion. And then other than that, we also want to now tell them these are the opportunities that are there and what are their civic rights and how can they now engage with that. But at the same time, we want them to teach us how we are going to work with them, because we are not experts. They are better, and they're at a position to tell us what will work and what will not work.
Okay. Duku, what do you think will work? We kwa ground sasa, unaona watu maambassador wakuje kwa base ya Jaba ama wakuje kwa place ya football. How will this work? Uda aje msee ndio akusikie vizuri? Because unajua kuna venye ma youth feel nikaa gava inajiongelesha. You see, tumekaa chini kwa boardroom kidogo, masuti, matai, nini, kujichocha hapa na pale, lakini kuna venye tuongee lugha yao. So ideally, what would be the best approach? Tuende tuongee na wasee kwa base, kila mtu kuwe na ambassador hapo, ama kuwe ni games, tournaments zikuwe organized, ama kuwe ni online. Wewe unaona mpango gani tutawaka vizuri na hii Kenya Ni Mimi?
So most of the people, when you go online, they are the elites, but they are youth peers, unaona. But another approach, for me, will work, ni vile tu you've said. I thank Kaz Nadia for giving me that opportunity. Because as for me, I work with the youth kwa ground, unaona. Sana sana Kariobangi na coach. I work with the youth. And I can say that if the idea of having ambassadors in wards, from counties, wards, ward representative, everyone will help. Because tukiona hizo barazas, when we talk with the youth kwa ground, na wasikuwa ati ni story ati na wana expect do. Because that is something that is a negative thing we have with our youth. Yeah. Someone will not come to our event, or someone will not come to that baraza because of something. Is there something for us? Kuna sombili tunaweza pata? That is the negative mentality, unaona. But we have to change something. It is a two-way, just like Daktari said. Yeah. We decide what we want as the youth. Then we are going to be helped by those people who are championing for this thing. Because if we are not ready to be helped, then this thing will not be of help to us. So it must start with us. It starts with us, then inaenda kwa Kasnadia. Because tukiaccept sisi wenyewe, pia yeye atatusaidia. Unaona? So I think tukienda kwa ground, because as at now, hizo ndio operations tuko nazo na Kas. So tukienda kwa ground na waki-accept hiyo stuff, then I think we are good to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dr. Lajide, and that's an interesting point that Duku is bringing out, the tokenism aspect, because it's one thing that happens with the youth across the country, really. They're waiting for something so that to attend that sensitization process, they're hoping that they will be paid. How do we curate a behavior change conversation and craft it in such a way that it is persuasive rather than instructive to the youth?
Well, the most appropriate way to curate that kind of change in mindset is, first of all, to engage with the young people themselves to find out what is the basis for this trust deficit. And that's the greatest challenge that confronts us as a society, is the trust deficit on both sides. You find some of the older generation thinking, the young generation is not ready. And you find the people on the young generation thinking the older people are not willing to give us a space, so whatever we can grab for ourselves now is what it is. And that's why it's important for us, first of all, to begin to look from their own perspective. Why do we have a trust deficit? And then work with government and the other side to address some of those issues. So at the end of the day, it's not going to be a sharp change immediately, dramatic. It's a process. Like the cast said, when she started this several months ago, and then we started talking to her as UNFP as well, all of us have gone through changes in how we are conceptualizing and fine-tuning the process, because more and more young people are inputting into it. So ultimately, the aim is to build trust. Once we build trust, the issue of tokenism begins to take a backstage. Yeah. Trust is the most important element we have to put on the table, and that requires open dialogue, two-way, and consistency.
Yeah, but Dr. Olajide, as UNFPA, I know you jumped onto this having some, say, KPIs. How then would you know that this is actually succeeding? What would you like to see?
So let me start from the side of UNFPA, since for us, we are the lead UN agency when it talks about sexual and reproductive health and rights. And one of the reasons why we jumped on this is because we have found out that ultimately, one of the greatest challenges that hinder the capacity of young people to optimizing opportunities provided to them are SRHR challenges. So you have teenage pregnancy at about 18% nationally, some counties at 40%. You have HIV infection increasing amongst young people. You have gender-based violence. And so if we're able to change the narrative, providing young people access to the information that helps them make informed decisions, providing life skills education. We looked at certain drivers in counties, and we found out that about as much as 65% of young people thought you couldn't get pregnant at the first intercourse. So ignorance was a key driver of some of the SRHR challenges. So improvements in SRHR challenges, increased utilization of information, knowledge management, all of those things are things we want to see change. And those for us are concrete KPIs as we start going to the other pillars that looks at employment, income generation, and other proximate indicators of value orientation and engagement in the political space. We've also looked at issues that relate to the environment, sustainability, and so we would have other partners that would. So we're going to actually define KPIs for the range of 5 pillars that we have identified that requires holistic progress.
All right. I'll take a quick break here on Daybreak. When we come back, keep your views coming. I see some of them at Citizen TV Kenya, Trevor Mbija, hashtag Daybreak. We're talking about youth empowerment. What more needs to be done? There's a new initiative now. It's called Kenya ni Mimi, led by the CAS herself, CAS Nadia Abdallah, Chief Administrative Secretary, Ministry of ICT, Innovation and Youth Affairs, in collaboration with UNFPA. And also we have Faith Duku, who's a young person who says, yeah, anakuanga kwa ground sana sana. We'll find out what else needs to be done for the youth. We'd like to hear from you. Hashtag Daybreak at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. We're back in a bit, all right? All right, thank you for staying with Citizen TV. We're still going through some of your feedback here. We're talking about youth empowerment. There's a new initiative, Kenya ni Mimi, courtesy of CAS, Nadia Abdallah, the Chief Administrative Secretary, Ministry of ICT Innovation and Youth Affairs, in collaboration with UNFPA, and it's represented by Dr. Demola Olajide. He's a representative of Kenya here, and Faith Duke, who's also a young person who's with us here. We're talking about this issue of youth empowerment. I see a lot of your tweets. I'm trying to sift them through. That's why you can see me trying to buy time. Let's see. Ral D says 70% of jobs in Kenya are held by people who are supposed to have retired. Some are holding 10 jobs. That's why youth are frustrated. Pesa kwa wazee na kazi kwa vijana. That is why the youth are frustrated. Is that even true, Nadia?
You know,
I know that's putting you on the spot there.
No, what I'll say, and this is the mindset that I've always had, you know, if you feel that way, then what is it that you want us to do different? Not as the government, but as a young person. How are you proving to yourself and to your community and your nation that you can earn that and you can be that? And then that will ease your frustration, but will also help you tap into other ventures, I would say.
Okay. Mwangi Flossi, and this one goes to Duku. And Oliza, wait a minute. Are they even given that opportunity? My youth are going to opportunity to begin with.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question, Trevor. Right now, in our cabinet, don't even look at the cabinet, we have 5 youths. Eh? Look, we have commissioners. Some of the commissioners here, I know them, they are youths. Let me ask you a question. Ulisikia wapi mali kwingine kuna youth kwa government ingine? Hata kama hao youth wamewekwa hapo, wekwe wote, hata president akiwekwa youth. Do you think wewe mwenyewe hapo umekuwa employed? Think about that, eh? Yeah. Are you employed? Do you think that youth president will give all the youth in this country jobs in the first place? Think about that, eh? So, my friend, this thing is a mindset issue, and we should deal with ourselves first.
Okay. well, Faith is not holding any bars for the youth. Engineer Lazaro Kanyambok says youth need real empowerment. Senior people in government have been only taking advantage of their desperate situation by mocking them with petty things like mkokoteni, wheelbarrow. Surely, how will this help a jobless graduate? And Dr. Lajide, I'd like you to come in on to that. The older people in the government and senior people taking advantage. This is a concern by Engineer Lazaro Kanyambok, who is speaking to us on Twitter. He says that youth need real empowerment. Senior people in government have only been taking advantage of their desperate situation by mocking them with petty things like mkokotenis and wheelbarrows. Surely, how will a mkokoteni help a jobless graduate?
Well, the question that comes to mind then is a two-way interaction, and that's what we're trying to build. It's always a little bit more challenging for someone to take advantage if the other person is not at the level of vulnerability and is open to that. What we're trying to do is for young people to begin to re-engineer themselves as well. One of the things that Cass said is 75% of the Kenyan population is below the age of 35. Now that's huge. And so within that number is power. Within that number, you can curate the knowledge, create the synergies. We can no longer be passive recipients of what government is going to hand over or what individuals are going to hand over. It's supposed to be a two-way partnership, a collaboration. And that's what has to change. And just to quickly go to the question about older people, Kenya ni Mimi is not supposed to be a campaign to discriminate against old people. It's supposed to be a campaign for partnership. Because as I always say, every individual, whether you're young or even a child, you've got only 2 options, either to die now or to grow old. It's inevitable. And so we need to go through a process that ensures that our mindset and our society is ready, not just to accommodate the old, but also to empower the youth.
All right. Jenga Kumu Paul here, Cass, says youth must know and understand that jobs and leadership will not and will never come to them. They must wake up, innovate, and fight for their safe spaces. Leadership is a kingdom and it's being fought for. For them to be heard, that voice must be fought for. This is exactly why you're having this initiative, right? For
yeah, and it's exactly how I started. Growing up, you know, coming from a Swahili community, I've always felt that I needed to raise my voice and do things in a different way so that I'm acknowledged for my power and everything. And so Kenya Ni Mimi is also doing that. We are trying to change the mindset of young people and engage them, and also gauge. You know, you engage but gauge, because it's young people, I would say, or youth are a very tricky constituency. If you tread very badly, the impact backwards will be very badly. And so we go with sustainable approaches, and we talk and we try to articulate different things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Faith, there's another one here from Musa, who says, how can we change our mindset while we feel the country is getting ruined and poisoned by a few individuals in the government leadership? Where will your children go? How do you expect them to be when they grow up? You see, mi ishi yangu ni moja hapa. Ndiyo youth wako 75.1%. Hii demographic inaweza change anything they face. But ni hao tu ndio bado watavotia the same people, alafu hao ndio tena watarudi kucomplain. Disconnect iko wapi hapa na youth man? Because wakitoka wote waamue ati unajua ni aje, si tunataka change. Kwa hivyo change itakuwa hivi. They'll actually pull it off because they're 75.1%. But issue ni nini? Ni vile are they so nonchalant ama msia anafikiria tu niacha tu nikae home, hizi story watu watajipanga huko mbele.
One thing, by the way, you've said something, and I love what you've said. Blaming our politicians. One thing, in fact, a politician will never help you. Get that thing out of your mind. It is only a serious person, a serious technocrat somewhere, a serious leader somewhere who is going to look at you na kuone huruma venye wewe unataka. Unaona? But a politician will never. He will come kwa ground. Siana juani utenda. Imagine there is a friend of mine. I will not mention his name. Every time we go on a certain event, siwache tuende tuone ule msee tuone kata tujenga. Imagine, and that is a person ako campus. So what do you think mtu mwenye ako huko chini atafanya? Unaona? If you show that person that you are not interested with their monies, atakuangalia differently, first of all, because most of these serious leaders, ukiwaendea na idea tu unataka pesa, my friend, they watakubeba ufala sana. And we should start kutoa hiyo nini mindset yetu. Ndio mimi naongelea story ya mindset sana. Because most of the youth, we will start something ikifika katikati, we stop it. I love the nini of Emerging Leaders initiative. She started the Emerging Leaders with no funds. She worked hard. She worked hard until akapata partners that saw something in her and decided to support her initiative. And it's standing, unaona? So I think tukianza tu na sisi tuachane na story ya politician, because every day you look, I saw like some statistics na Citizen TV at Kenyan youth on social media are the most, they are the bullies in the whole world, as in yani hao ndio wanabully watu the 195 countries. Kenya number 1. You know,
that's interesting, because you see, Dr. Lajide, there's another one here. I think it's still Ral D. He says part of the lack of employment is the education system that creates dependency on employment and not create employment opportunities itself. But then now that brings in a whole new category, because are we going to overhaul the entire system now?
I totally do not think so. I think we continue to feed into the system. As we engage the young people, as we interrogate our environment, we continue to feed into the system. At the same time, as young people go through that system, they will continue to also open their minds. There's one thing to go through an education system and receive the lectures and read the books. It's another thing to go through an education system that empowers your mind to be a learning mind. That's what is supposed to happen. So that when we go into the system, we take what the system offers us, we're able to interrogate it, internalize it, and then help us to shape our environment and shape our discourse and shape our interaction with that environment. That's where the challenge is, and that's what we want to be able to help young people to do. Just to weigh in on one thing, and I'll put on the table statistics without trying to interpret it. For the 2017 elections, the total number of registered voters in Kenya was about 19 million. The age bracket of 18 to 34 in Kenya today is 13.7 million. That figures.
Okay, you don't want to delve into that. Because Nadia, there's another issue that I want you to talk about. I think,
Yes.
and you mentioned it, I believe social pillar is one of the issues on Kenya Nimimi.
Values.
The values.
Yes.
And one of the main concerns is
Yes.
mental health.
Yes.
How do you intend to address this particular issue? Because it comes in many ways.
Yeah.
The youth are online.
Yeah.
They get some level of pressure. They get some level of wanting to belong. And then there's also the issue of SGBV, where
Yeah.
because there's some who are most vulnerable and they're
Yeah.
at home.
Yeah.
How do you intend to go around this to
Okay.
ensure that you take on all the issues that they're facing
Yeah.
and have them addressed?
Okay, and so I think the first thing is to actually disseminate information about mental health and really break down the stereotype. You know, the stereotype around mental health is that it's not an African issue, it's a Western ideology. And so the first thing we've done, and we have been doing, and due to COVID, is we've been engaging with young people online through my social media networks. And then we've reached out to psychologists and psychiatrists, and we've tried to bring them on board to talk to young people about what exactly is mental health, both online and offline. And we realize that a lot of young people don't really understand what mental health is because of two things. One, the social sphere that surrounds them, and two, the embarrassment that is really encompassed around mental health. And so for us, through this campaign, we've really tied up SRHR and mental health because they go hand in hand. And we want to first give civic education about it, but also engage with other stakeholders so that we are able to really help our generation. A lot of young people are committing suicide. Depression is on the rise. Anxiety, personally, myself, I battle anxiety, and part of it is because of my job, but I've learned how to harness it. You know, I've learned how to talk to psychiatrists, and these are things that a young person can't say out loud. But yes, I do get help. You know, at the same time, I got this job and then I lost my mother for 5 months into the line. And you know, that's when I could have broken down. But I used my channels to really talk to young people, to really engage with doctors, and to really engage with other stakeholders that have a key interest in mental health. So from there, we're going to come up with programs. Maybe we'll be able to really influence the education system and tell them to incorporate mental health as a subject in class, in primary and in high school. You see, these are different things that, as we keep going with the campaign, we are going to roll out.
All right. Let me see if I can take in a few more of your tweets. Jacob Abere says the education system we have doesn't cultivate childhood, youthhood, then to adulthood, talent or passion development. Example, we have once trained nursing, but parents forces them. Midway jobs disappear. One ends up as a bank teller, which comes as an accident. So there's no passion there. Let's see, Malenga 001 says, I love the fact that the campaign is youth-owned and driven. There is nothing for us without us. As youth, we should fully support this. All right, let's see, Joseph Kihagi says, hey, Trevor, tell the cast that this time as they launch this initiative, they consider us in Kinango constituency, since most of us are interested, and I will be their ambassador there. How are you including people, by the way? Because Joseph Kihagi here is wondering, Kinango.
Yeah, so for this particular launch first, with the help of other stakeholders, we've really gotten young people who we've checked their backgrounds, and we're going to invite them to be part of it. We have identified, I would say, 5 young people from every county as a way to just come, engage, and also get their response. But then when it comes to our ambassadors, I'm personally taking that initiative. I told you that I slept very late. And that is because I've been reading young people's profiles. Most of my ambassadors are not going to be the ones who've had opportunities. Because the problem sometimes you see is that there are a lot of young people who get recycled. Yeah. You go to an event, you see young people who've been there for long. So I don't want Kenya Nimimi to do that. I want Kenya Nimimi to give a chance to that young person who's very innovative or is a strong leader but has never gotten an opportunity. And so we are using our officers on the ground, we are using GAO, and we are using also our developing partner and our partner UNFPA to get these young people. Then we are vetting them. Okay. And if I see that you're not part of the pillars, bigger picture, we are not taking you. So I've heard his. And if you allow me, I wanted to answer the question when it comes to like, they talked about inclusion for young people and education system. I also went through the education system. In fact, I grew up in a very orthodox community, but it didn't stop me to think out of the box. Yeah. You see, you get education, but education is not what's going to give you that opportunity. It's up to you as a young person to really look within yourself. What is your strength? If you're good at farming, farm. Don't be embarrassed.
Yeah.
If you're good at innovating, whether it's technologically wise or other ways, do that. And so we have to now shift the idea on from this is how our education system is. It's not allowing us to think too.
Yeah.
Let us read more books. We are on social media, most of us. Let us stop following socialites and let us start following change makers, and let us go on websites and read. Reading is something that helps, opening up and everything. So,
Speaking of which, your ministry has given a lot of initiatives for young people to get jobs, to post their innovations. How is the uptake? Do they even know this exists, or is it being uptaken by the youth?
Okay, so they know, of course, you know, we have things like Ajira Digital, we have the white box where young people can post their innovation, we have KYOP that gives master craftsmen a chance to train young people on informal jobs. Then we have YEDEF, all these, I have been part of all of them because I wanted to see how it works. I've registered for Ajira Digital, I'm taking a course myself. KYOP, I've traveled across Kenya, I've seen. The uptake is good, but the gap is also there. And the gap comes from young people not being proactive when it comes to getting information. Or they want to sign up for something and then they ask themselves, so when are we getting the results? You know, there's this mindset of, can I just apply and then wake up one morning and it happens? You personally know hard work and success doesn't come in just a fortnight. You have to really have sleepless nights. And so through our ministry, we are really engaging and we're really disseminating. And I'm part and parcel of that. So I can really confidently say they are a big percentage of young people who've benefited. I've handed over just a month ago a newly truck to a young person from Tharakanithi who does agro business and everything. I've been to California, and I've met a young person who's actually a recipient of Ajira Digital and is now training other people.
Caliph.
Yeah, huko.
Caliph from boys.
So nimepitia, unaona.
Okay, let's see what else you're saying here. Wilson Masaka on Twitter says, the biggest challenge is that most programs are designed and brought to the youth rather than to engage the youth in programming at the very starting point of the project as informed by baseline research, inclusivity at every given stage. And Duke, I'd like you to talk about this. Wilson Masaka is concerned, program ilianzishwa na youth wenyewe. Because you see, the other thing is, there's one thing about involving all the youth and then involving some of them. Scientifically speaking, if you are to take in terms of statistics, out of 10 people and you pick 3 or 4, they generally can speak for the rest. But the youth, wako na hii mentality yenye, mi sikuulizwa hiyo story, kwa hivyo sio mimi. Haini involve mimi. Kuna venye ule ndiye mwenye aliulizwa waendele na yeye. Tutawa unite aje to make sure ati wasee kitu yenye tumeongelea kama youth, because kitu yenye una face na kitu yenye na face ni almost same. Sasa issue si ati lazima kila mtu aulizwe.
So anataka kila mtu aulizwe. In short,
pretty much. Yes.
Let me tell you something before hata tumjibu waulizwe. There was a discussion on KYOP and she has talked about KYOP. Do you know KYOP? Kuna we have 33,000. Hata ukiangalia kwa 33,000 youths started the KYOP. They started, they applied, they got. Na ujue hapa si ati unaambiwa ati utoe pesa kama university school fees. That is like mse mwenye ali drop out nini, mse au manage kwenda college ama kampo. That is an opportunity for them. Na si ati inawaachilia katikati. It works with you mpaka umalize mwisho. And you're given some of the opportunities of employment by the government itself and through the ministry ya kinakazi, unaona? But you see, hapo kwa njia, you start it with some people and some people drop it. Hiyo inakuambia nini, Trevor? It tells you that some of us, our vision is not strong enough to sustain our dreams, unaona? Because we must have that thing yenye inatupeleka mwisho. If 33 start, then like maybe 15,000 wanamalizia. Hiyo nakwambiaje, na si ati unaitishwa school fees. Then we are the problem.
Vision is not strong enough to sustain our dreams.
Okay, maybe nimesema vibaya.
Your line inaweza. Your line inaweza.
You see, that's the problem. And then, my friend, KYOP, Ajira ama nini, zote, they are ziko social media. We apply, Google, unaenda Google, una apply. Kama hiyo time waki-advertise, una apply. It is there for everyone. Si ati imeandikwa hapo, you cannot apply because you are Onyango ama nani ama nani. It's for everyone. So hiyo idea yake mwambie Hiyo hapana.
Kila
Hiyo
mtu. Okay. Rono Winches says, youths have for a long time been sidelined in nearly all sectors, but honestly speaking, we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. We appreciate all the efforts done by those youths tasked to lead others like Cass Nadia. Uko na mafans pia kasi ati natafuta tu vitu negative. Shadrack Chalo says, I like the discussion. Most youths are waiting for government to give them jobs and blaming the system. They want things to come freely. They should come out and make that change they want to see. I support that young lady there. It's all about the mindset. All right, Dr. Lajide, I'll give you a chance to make closing remarks on this because we've already run out of time. Believe me or not, time flies. What would you like to see at the end of this whole...
Well, I would also tell you about what we've seen.
Yeah.
When the COVID pandemic hit, we found it very difficult because of the restrictions and the challenges to begin to continue moving into the communities where we were responding to GBV, FGM, and all of that. And so we convened young people on Zoom and began to speak to them about the challenges. And then they fashioned for themselves the kind of solutions they could provide in those communities to build resilience. So my responsibility then was to find a way to channel funds to them, even though their organizations did not have those stringent guidelines that the UN would want to see. And so we did do that with World Vision. And you would see if you go online that loads of young people doing brilliant work in communities that we would have been unable to reach if we did not find that partnership and intersection. So that's what we want to do with Kenya Nimimi. Keep looking for opportunities for the partnership, for the intersection, to have the youth be the change they want to see. Thank you.
All right. Faith, closing remarks on this?
I want to say that my youth, we should change the way we think. We start by taking all these opportunities. Wacha kwanza, hizi zenye tuko nazo sahi, wacha tuzichukue. Then we start fighting for the rest. But kama hizi za zenye tuko nazo opportunities atuzifighti, then we are showing those people we are not even serious. Let them know that crowd hizi, hizi opportunities zimeisha. Then wajue, enye, what do we need to do next? No. So me nezambia to my youth, let's keep the struggle. Yeah. Let's fight for those positions. Go for those positions. Azita kukujia. Yeah. We should go for them.
Niwe ujipange na uhasa.
Niwe ujipange. Yeah. Enda, now you fight for your space.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Cass, I'll give you the final say on this. And that question that people always ask you, what is your picture of success?
So which one do I start with? So my picture, okay, I'll start with what I wanted to say because I'd already put it in my head. Basically, I just want to tell young people to give Kenya Nimimi a chance, the campaign, because it's a campaign for us to educate, involve, empower, and protect the young people. It's a campaign that is supposed to really give you all the information you need about the existing government programs so that we can make them work for us. And we should always remember, kuwa Kenya ni mimi na Kenya ni wewe, but the most important thing is that Kenya ni sote. And the success, are you talking about Kenya ni mimi or in general?
Kenya ni mimi.
Kenya ni mimi, yeah. Oh, because I was about to tell you about general. Anyway. So the success is basically to be able to see young people's mindset change, but to also be able to see strong ambassadors that will work with both myself and UNFPA as we go on, and as we also seek other development partners and engage with young people, because programs are there and information is there. Now it's just for us to disseminate it, but also to get a feedback and to really reinstill. I'm really passionate about this. Reinstill the values. Let us love one another as young people. Let us unite one another as young people. And let us be peaceful as young people, because it is our responsibility to protect and grow Kenya.
How long will you run this?
It doesn't have a timeline.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So you're in it for the long run?
I'm in it for the long run. And, you know, 6 years down the line, when I transit from being a youth to, I guess, an adult, maybe, then someone else. And that's the reason why Kenya ni Mimi ambassadors are very important, because those are the ones who are going to carry this mantle as we move forward. And you never know, today is Kenya ni Mimi, tomorrow might be Africa ni Mimi.
All right, brilliant. All right, thank you so much for making time. Cass Nadia Abdallah, Chief Administrative Secretary, Ministry of ICT, Innovation and Youth Affairs. Dr. Dimole Olajide, UNFPA representative in Kenya. And Faith Duku, a young person in the youth sexual and reproductive health advocate. She calls herself Ambassador Duku. Thank you so much for that engaging conversation. And stand by for Kenya ni Mimi. It's an initiative for the young people to empower you as well, to make sure your voice is heard out there until we become former young persons ourselves. So that means we still have a bit of time, all right? Right now it's time for Level Up with Roy T-Boy on the decks. I would have danced, but I would have 2 left feet and I'm wearing a suit. I'm overdressed for this kind of stuff, but Roy T-Boy's got you, right? It's a What a move. Roy T-Boy, back to you.